Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Wednesday in the Riv. And we have a guest waiting, and we'll get him on. Just wanted to mention one thing. There was a shooting on Rock Street, 50 Gray. So just we always try to keep you up on the uh, crime updates. So with that, CJ,
Well, I heard before we move on from there, I heard that there was a certain individual who is the chief executive officer for Fall River who said at the Corky Road Club meeting that Fall River is a safe city.
well, I don't. We don't want to cut too much into our guest's time, but listen, you know the old saying, "Figures don't lie, but liars can figure." I believe he said crime is better. So that means rather than number one in the state, we might be getting down to number two, or rather than having 12 shootings, we only had 11. The reality is we've had 55 shootings since January at least. The state police are now actively engaged in crime fighting operations in the city of Fall River. Operation Trident. In the last show, we showed a picture of their gang unit making an arrest. So to say there's no crime, listen, we understand that it's a problem everywhere, but when you ignore it, to me, that's an issue. And with that, I'll leave this alone. Let's get to our guest so we
Yeah.
can get as
Okay.
much
Well,
time as he can.
we have oh, we just lost him. We'll have to come back to him because we just lost him. I don't know what he did, but we just lost him. We have Jordan James Silvia as a guest, but somehow or another he got disconnected. So I'll wait for him to come back and I'll bring him right back on. Um, there was a candidates night, I guess, last night, run by the fire department, and pictures were being taken by people and candidates, and um, there was one picture taken which I was with our candidate, that's our guest with Jordan, with Sam Sutter, and Jordan has tore apart both candidates, both Paul Coogan and Sam Sutter, on multiple issues. So it's not like this is a new thing. But like Jordan said in his post, it shows that Sam is a civil person. So, because Paul wouldn't even take a picture with him. Oh, and Jordan is back. Welcome back, Jordan.
Sorry about that, guys. I was having
That's
audio
okay.
issues.
It's live TV. It happens all the time.
How could I not hit you with these huge things on my head? Now I can.
Okay.
Well, welcome to the show, Jordan.
Hey, good to see you guys. Obviously, it reminds me of the old war stories from back in the day. 2014?
2014, the recall.
Yeah, Paul Wolf Flanagan. Hey, they tell me he doesn't owe us royalties for all the success we've given him, right?
It would be nice if we could get it, right?
At least a couple marijuana cigarettes. Not that I imbibe, but
I don't
you know,
imbibe either.
yeah, I could at least gift it to a family member or something. Jeez,
so, so
what a
you're
crazy
running
day.
for city council again. Although
Mm,
I should say not again, but you're running for city council.
constantly. Did I ever
Yeah,
stop? I think I stopped one year.
yeah. I think one year you did decide that you weren't going to do that. This year, like you've done in the past, you've taken out papers for two offices, and then you decided you were only going to turn them in for one, which I think is a good idea.
I didn't hold on, CJ. I didn't decide. Right, I wasn't able to get the. I need. I think it's 300, but
Yeah,
they disqualify a bunch. So one of the things I've criticized is we need to get more people involved in politics. Our politicians aren't serving the people, right? As you can see from everybody's quality of life nosediving, and the only thing they're able to do that they'll do this radical, huge lift in government to change the city charter to make it harder for people to get into politics, right? They've upped the requirements and they've made it harder to remove the incumbent. That everyone
correct.
should know what their intentions are just for that. It's to keep their power and to, what I mean, prohibit people like myself from entering into their arena, so to speak.
Well,
Their
Jordan,
private
it's
world.
true. You know, my position has always been you should need one signature to run for any office because
I love
the
that.
reality is we should let everybody who wants to try to uh, affect our government, affect our government. And you also know that we like spirited debate. We encourage this stuff, and we know that you're not bashful. And you engage in you engage in a lot of spirited debate. So you've got a platform here for you to articulate your positions and stuff, and tell the people what you think they need to know. And this election is up for grabs. We had a very poor turnout in the primary. Everybody's pretty close to that top 8 and 9. You made a fairly good showing. You're not that many votes out, and this is your opportunity to
That's pretty scary. No chip.
yeah, well, no, but something, maybe finally, we've been at this a long time, like you said. Maybe every once in a while we reach a point where the people are pissed off enough to do something. Hopefully, with what they see, what's happening in the city, it's just a total disregard for the people, and maybe now in a final election, we will do something. So with that, I'm gonna shut up and let you talk.
Oh man. Hey, just real quick, Chip. So last night, so I've been learning a lot, right, over the last few years. Um, and one again, local politics wise, I go to the fire union meeting last night, and I have my preconceived notions of what their motivations are going to be. I don't like the forum so much because when I've gone in the past, right, they stopped inviting me. Jay Burns stopped inviting me for a few years because we had a little bit of a negative interaction at one of those things, which, like you said, you're into spirited debates, as am I. And I'm definitely guilty, Chip. Everyone knows of going maybe over the top in some of my presentations, right, at the city council or whatnot, citizen input, all the, throughout all the years, right, that I've been doing this. So I have some responsibility in that. But I was, one the thing I don't like about an event like that is I feel like it's transactional, right? I call it the firing squad, right, where you basically stand up in front of these guys that work for the city who, make no mistake about it, risk their lives, right? Risk their lives, police and fire. Um, and it's basically, I don't want to be, like I said there, I don't want to be transactional. And you see a bunch of politicians go up there and say, I'm going to give you whatever you want. And that's why that meeting isn't recorded, right? One of the main tenets and what I'm going to bring to the city, guys, is transparency. I think if people knew more about what was happening, specifically in the schools, but in every capacity with the government, right? So again, uh, and I'm sorry, my delivery is awful. People were telling me last night, guys who work for the fire department, like, Jordan, you just gotta slow down. And pun intended, I can speak like it's coming from a fire hose at times. Um, but yeah, I learned last night from these guys, they're not this voting block, this rigid block of people who all think the same. I was surprised to hear how many people actually resonated with the things that I talk about. When I led off the conversation, after everyone said, I'm going to give you whatever you want going forward, I said, I'm running because I think Democrats are destroying our country. Knowing that Jay Burns invited me, and he's like the local Democratic board, whatever that is, I think, and again, I'm not just trying to throw bombs to be controversial. This is why I do it. So if I do it not wanting money, I'm the only person in this race who won't accept money to do the job, right? I think it should be a public service, city council meeting every couple weeks or whatever to go and bloviate, right? Um, but yeah, there was the thing that I learned last night, dude, which was awesome, was these guys. I'm hearing, yeah, we don't like being taxed either, right? Like they live in Fall River too, So my biggest criticism of Paul Coogan, and I say he has no integrity, is he's running around telling everybody that everything's great in Fall River, which is a complete lie. Everyone knows that. Why is he saying that? Because I even said this to them last night. I said, look, when I step up here, I guess I have this role of I am the challenger. So I'm supposed to say things are going terrible because I'm trying to get this job, which that's not my priority. I don't care. And the incumbents, unfortunately, are in this position where they have to lie to people and say things are great, right? And I get accused of being negative, right? For years, you guys know, for 10 years, because I point out all the problems. You don't go around. You could point out like the good things that are going on, and there's plenty of people that do that, but that doesn't fix anything, right? So I'm trying to fix things. So couple themes. So again, I was pleasantly surprised to hear that these guys are getting, because they have taxes, water bills, insurance, utilities, grocery bills, uh, you know, financing things, whether it's mortgages, stuff. Everyone is getting crushed in every direction in forever and in the entire nation, right? So that's the environment. And I've always kid around, half kidding, saying like eventually I'll be the mayor of Fall River, but it's going to take all these politicians from the city level to the state to the federal government to run the country into the ground, have huge financial collapse, and then I'll be, maybe I'll be looked to at that point to like, be in charge over the ruins after they destroy everything, because that's what they're basically bringing us to.
As far as the labels, Jordan, people love to use labels to they call people that they disagree with negative, and then they label them to try to confirm that. But you know as well as I do, labels are labels. If you're bringing something to the table, most people will understand it. They'll listen. The people who try to label you are the people who are trying to erase you. I mean, listen.
Correct.
We all know that. What do you call a poor man that's crazy? You call him crazy. What do you call a rich man that's crazy? You call him eccentric. You say you're over the top. Your people who listen to you and think that you've got some good ideas would say you're passionate. These labels mean nothing. That's what we always tell our viewers. Listen to what people say. And we're not telling you to believe it, but just listen and check it out. And that's the way we can move people forward. And that's what I think you've been known for that. So you've got an advantage. People know you're not afraid to speak your mind. And the reality is that we don't care about labels. That's why we give everybody here a chance to say what they say, and we tell the people, look, filter it out, and vote your conscience. But we truly believe we need a change in this city. We've said it time and time again, and that's why we're glad to have you here. You can tell us some of the specific things that you're kind of going to do. Because we all know everybody's getting. Matter of fact, it's ironic you talked about the water bill. I'm going down today and pay my water bill because it's due today. And you know why? I never give them my money till the last day because they take enough of it. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Yeah, Josh Silva's been trying to organize a tax revolt forever, saying we shouldn't be paying taxes while things as crazy as they are. Yeah, one last thing on last night too. Again, the idea that so you have people who, again, they've been in office for 30 years, right? Joe Camara, Linda Ferrera, and they're saying how they always support these guys. And one of the first things I let off to Jay Burns was as well. I was like, I was laid off from the Fall River Police Department, right? So they say they've always supported them. And I said, how many guys did you lose? And he said 46. So the history hasn't been that they support these guys because of financial limitations of Fall River. Previously, not so much right now, because we have again all these windfalls, hundreds of millions of dollars fall into our local politicians' laps. So they're kind of like riding high right now, but that's why everything costs double and triple, and it's killing everybody else. I don't know how much you can affect that specific thing on a local level, with the exception of two things. At least raising the issue that everything the politicians are doing is the cause of everybody's financial misery. And, hand in hand with that, one of the biggest things I run on is fixing the schools, right? So I heard Bobby Bailey and Tom Corey on WSAI yesterday, and it came up about, I just didn't hear much in the sense of A, what they've done, and B, what they're going to do, right? So it's kind of like, oh, I'm just trying to learn and see what's going on and talk to people. And then Tom Corey was saying, we do teach kids financial literacy. That's just anybody who talks to someone who's 18 or older in Fall River, the level of financial literacy, right, in the city. And again, results matter. I used to go around quoting the DESI stats on how poorly kids do on tests, which that's not a true reflection either, right? Because you got grade inflation, a lot of chicanery going on with everything. Tom Corey wants to get rid of MCAS, right? So they don't want to have any accountability in what's happening in the schools. Good point right now to say some of the things I actually stand for, right? The main theme of what I'm running on is we can't just keep printing trillions and trillions of dollars. It's going to bankrupt the country is bankrupt, right? $33 trillion in debt. There's no more money. So they just keep printing money when they need more money, right? Every 45 days now, they're going to raise the national credit card limit, right? On the national debt. That's making every American poorer and poorer. It's stealing the future of our kids. It's completely immoral, and that's politicians. It's a runaway inflation. The interest that they're paying on the national debt is now more than we're spending on national defense, which is already out of control. So we're already bankrupt, right? One of the things I was asking the candidates last night, I was kind of like a cat playing with some yarn. I'm like, hey, are you ready to spend $500 million a year? You think you're qualified to do that? And you kind of get the deer in the headlights look, because a lot of this is absurd what's happening locally. So my main theme is we can't keep printing trillions of dollars and making everybody's lives more miserable, right? We need to do better with what we have, right? There are ways you can use our resources we already have more efficiently, right? So whether it's reviewing, leave policies or what people do in their actual, if you audited what people actually do, again, just working in the Florida Police Department, you have a lot of people working in roles in the police station that maybe could be done by civilians or something, right? And have more cops on the street just by having cops on the street, whether it's all the way up to the chief of police. In some of these towns, right? Somebody I think a chief just got stabbed locally because he was responding to a call. You have these hierarchies of supervisors, whatever, they have their own union and whatnot, where they don't become, they're no longer police officers in the traditional sense. They are basically supervisors, right? Administrators. Nobody likes administrators. That's the problem with education in this country. Same thing. We spend $77 million a year more than we did 5 years ago, and get less results. That should force every politician in Fall River to resign. And ironically, Paul Coogan's been in the school department his whole entire career. It's so beautiful, right? It's so beautiful that we have a guy in charge of the city who spent his life in education, and we've spent more and more untold millions of dollars more on education for our kids to be less educated, right? I want everyone to just stew on that. So again, what do I think? We need to fix the schools. Like I have a two-pronged approach, right? Keep as many kids out of the already proven failed school department as possible. I told Maria Ponce, the superintendent, a couple months ago, and try to salvage what's left. We're pushing out communist kids at 18, right? Who don't know anything about economics 101. I asked both of you guys to go in the Fall River groups and see the conversations when anybody posts an apartment for $1,800, $2,000 a month. And you just get communism. Like housing is a right to people. It should be ergo it should be free. These are like Marxist ideologies that I don't know if it's because we live in Massachusetts, but whatever it is, they're economically illiterate, right? That's the populace that we kind of have in Fall River, and I say that because statistically it's borne out. People are poor here. People are poor. Right? There's no way around it. Chip, we've always said that, right? That look at the poverty, look at the per capita income. That's how I grade the schools. I don't go by DESI statistics anymore. I go by what does your bank account say. I know that'll offend people like this. Money isn't everything. I understand that, but feeding your kids is important. Your ability to stay paying your rent is important. And I'm watching the 6th floor report yesterday on WSAR with Ann O'Neill Souza, right? Which we all know the history there, right? The mayor's chief of staff was trying to find my wife's address 10 years ago at 3 in the morning with Paul De Silva. Another reason why he attacked Paul Coogan's integrity. He wants to have, he'll hire someone of a shady background because they're effective at getting votes or whatever. There's a lot. I could obviously talk for hours and hours and hours. I'm sorry I go all over the place. But again, number one priority, we have to do better with the hundreds of millions of dollars, $500 million we spend annually, insane numbers in Fall River. We can get better results just from doing what we have. And here's the other thing: we need to fix everything. There's not. I don't know. Again, people will say, "Oh, we have this best department. We have this best department." Listen, everything can be improved in life. Everything. Personally, I look at all these things with the local government in my own life. right? It's like a macro level of all of us. That's all government really should be, a collective of the individual people. In a lot of ways, unfortunately, it is representative in Fall River. Guys like Leo Pelletier in office for 40 years, and the people who are putting them there. You know what I mean? So we need like a radical, um, shift towards away from what we've been doing for 30 years and towards results-driven things. I have, like I said, I'm going to release a 100-point platform, right? So I'm going to have many things I can talk. I'll speak on some of them, right? Chip, I was kind of upset last night when I was speaking with the fire department. I said, I'm assuming you guys know who Ted Sedell is. Chip, do you know who Ted Sedell is? Sorry, you guys probably went away. I probably lost you. You can't hear me?
You're muted, Chip.
Sorry, Chip lost later.
Chip's
But
muted.
it's all good, TJ. Hey, so I mentioned to the firefighters, right, about Ted Sedell. Just finished a book, Who Stole My Pension, right, by him and Robert Kiyosaki. And I'm looking at one of the most recent pension statements that are public, right? And it says like the average pension in Florida is like $28,000, and that's obviously like in a poverty level, right? That's assuming that the guys that are working now are going to have any pension 20 years from now, right? They're basically banking that on politicians doing what they're saying. And Chip could probably, I know he's on the retirement board, so if he can't get his audio back, he can confirm this. I'm just looking at this form that the city put out. It said the pension was like 36% funded. Like that's like criminal, right? They're basically funding the expenses as it goes, which is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. You know what I mean? So the retirement, again, like I've had a friend of mine recently get hired by the city. He's like, oh, hey, doesn't make a ton of money, but at least I have a pension. The problem with that is no one should. So what are you going to do? You're going to work 20, 30 years for the city of Fall River to get like hopefully $40,000, $50,000 a year in 20, 30 years from now with the inflation. That's not a good strategy. You know what I mean? That's not a good strategy for anybody. So I know, again, you talk about things like the velocity of money. One of the things I want to see is the velocity of jobs. We could help a lot of people if politicians talk bad about turnover in the city department. I think people should come into the city, work for, maybe 5, 10 years, and it should be a stepping stone to move on, right? To move on. I don't think working 20 years at the same job for the local government is, I don't know how helpful that is, right? Look in the school department, right? Same thing with public unions. There's a lot of entrenchment there. Book I'm finishing right now, Inside American Education by Thomas Sowell. They talk about how unions protect poor workers, right? The people who are the people who stick around for 30 years, right? So I've been saying we have the wrong teachers, and that will offend everybody. But again, I don't say things to get votes. I say things what I think is what people need to hear, right? So when I say wrong teachers, you literally have people who are getting into, again, he has a ton of statistics in that one book about the people who get into education are on the lowest rung of all college graduates, right? And who gets into a job to make, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000 a year. Maybe it's for the summers off or whatnot. But they're not the role model for what we should be teaching our kids to want to do themselves. You know what I mean? I think that's important. And again, that can piss off a lot of people. I've never cared about that. You guys both know that. But again, I want to see. I actually part of my platform is I have we should introduce the Cliff Pomp model, right? How did Cliff Pomp become such a wealthy, financial, successful guy? He had someone when he was really young, Louis Andre, teach him everything about real estate. We should be taking all the most successful people in Fall River and have like an internship program, right? That doesn't cost any money, right? To have kids from Fall River talk to Anthony Cadero, right? And whoever else are the most successful people in Fall River and learn from them, right? And learn actual things that will help you. What are the reasons? Again, they're talking about chronic absenteeism and Bobby Bailey yesterday. He's on the the COVID, the post-COVID thing. I don't want to blame all these terrible results on COVID, but I'm gonna do it 7 times in this interview. That's basically what he did. COVID it didn't cause anything, right? It was the government response to COVID, right? It was the shutting down of the schools. Um, we again, there's so many things that we need to change. I call it we have to fix everything by using what we already have available. That and John Kerry famously said in 2004, when I was going to Iraq, you go to the war with the army that you have, right? So that's what we need to do in Fall River. It isn't endless begging Jake Auchincloss and Elizabeth Warren or whoever, all these people are for more money and then turn around and everyone is poorer for the rest of your life. So politicians can have an easier time making their local budgets. That's not, I don't think that's the way to go. And I won't support any of that.
You know, Jordan, what's very interesting is that you speak from the heart and you say it the way it should be said to people, especially about finances. We've witnessed this administration turn around and give pay raises to people in his sixth floor circle of friends without approval from the city council, yet he still gave them. And then
Yeah,
he put the city council in a position that they had to approve them because they were already being given them. And I don't believe in that. I believe that the city council should have said, you know what, you're not getting them. That's it. End of story. And now don't come back with them. The sad part about it is administrators within the city get automatic pay raises every year based upon a COLA, which I don't know where they get it from because it changes depending on what your position is. It's 3.9 here, it's 2.9 there, it's 4.9 here. It's different for everybody. And how do you get that? I mean, the retirees are limited to, $300 a year. That's their COLA. That's all they get, no matter what. And even then, that's left to the city's approval.
yeah. The people who
So
always
it's
do the
always
work,
something.
DJ, the people who actually do the work always get the shaft, right? They're the poorest of the poor. I said that on Mark Dion show. He's like, those people making 30 grand for the city. No one's coming for their money, right? It's these administrators. The answer to what you just said is, it's because it's not real life, right? That's not real life. In real life, you don't get an annual increase in raise just because like time went by. That's not reality. A lot of people don't even have pensions anymore. But one thing too, one of the things on my platform is, again, on this lack of accountability. We have like Matt Malone is a perfect example, right? So we hire these people with contracts, right? Bulletproof contracts. Kathy Ann Viveris, all the liars and most detestable people that have worked for the city of Fall River, and then when they get caught being how they are, then we can't fire them, right? And I always tell people you have people running for city council saying we need to have 4-year terms for mayor, which is like the politicians have a former mayor is in prison right now, right? There's been nothing in Fall River politics that has inspired that they should have less accountability, right? We have elections every day at my job, right? I go to work and my boss can look at me and tap me on the shoulder and say, Jordan, you're no longer required here. But in the government, that's for people like Ken Pacheco, these retreads who have gone there and lied forever. I have something for that, right? So one of the things I focus on is government accountability. So when we have these city council meetings, everyone should just raise their right hand, right, at the beginning of the meeting. Instead of you could do the Pledge of Allegiance, but then let's take an oath, right, that we're going to all tell the truth. And if anybody violates that, you could be charged with perjury because there's too much lying going on at those meetings. And the government will always come up with laws against peasants like myself, right? But they won't restrict themselves, right? I've seen that. I've been reading laws for 10 years, right? Obviously, before I'm doing what I'm doing now, I was working at a law office. So I have things that are going to attack the government's power and their ability to, to just, again, like Matt Malone. Whatever, you're doing all this derogatory stuff and you still keep your job, or they fire you and you still get paid. That doesn't happen in real world. I just have to not swear. That doesn't it's not real world, CJ. So that's what I'm going to promote, right? Like accountability, transparency. Those are things I want to bring to the government, to the city government.
It would
Well,
be nice to
I know
see
you
that.
will do it, Jordan, because you are not afraid to speak up. But we'll give you a couple of little examples that you can use and consider. Number one, CJ was talking about they're put in a position where they have to say yes, but there was one period a few years ago where the city council actually refused and denied the pay raises for Coogan's staff, and he still gave them to them, which is illegal. Those to this day, and every other pay raise on top of that is now illegal because it's been computed on an illegal base. But only I think Michelle Dion was the only counselor to step up. This is the problem we have. The same thing with the retirement system. You talked about the retirement system. I'll give you some of the stats, and I'd be glad to have a conversation with you on this. We have 52% of the people are making annually less than $25,000.
Poverty.
62%, 65% make less than $30,000. They're only allowed $360 a year as a COLA. The system. But how did we get there? From 2002 to 2012, and I was not on the board then, and it will never happen as long as I'm on the board. But the city underfunded our pension system in comparison to New Bedford by $89 million. Because we had people convincing them that we were going to get a far greater return than anybody knew, and then they used the money. And this is the problem, that we don't have politicians who are willing to get up there and get a little rowdy about this, because
or get educated on the topic.
The people are being victimized, and the people who are elected to represent them, for the most part, keep their mouths shut. They throw up their hands and say, what can we do? Well, I hate to remind the present city council, with a few exceptions, especially Michelle Dion, because she always stands up. But the reality is that, I hate to remind them this, but the mayor can't do anything without money, and they are the appropriating body. The mayor proposes, the city council disposes. They have never, virtually ever, except that one time for the pay raises in his office, and he ignored them, but they have never said, look, enough is enough. Stop creating 4 supervisors in a department that used to be run by 1. Stop spending money. Stop doing this. We are not going to appropriate the money. And this is the problem. We have a lot of people that are talking heads sitting in those seats. They do a lot of talking, and then they vote the wrong way. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Absolutely. So you have basically, like I said, when the government violates, I've just known this as a very, very peculiar thing, right? Every law that's directed towards normal people, there's a penalty attached. It's either a fine or a prison sentence. Then there's some laws that constrain what the government has to do, and there's never a penalty attached. It's just this weird, odd thing. So I want to change that, right? So I want to penalize people in government when they do the wrong thing, and whether it's state law changes through home rule petition, whatever we have to do, we have to bring accountability to these people. I'm trying to think of. But when you said about they won't speak up on it, I think they have to be educated on it too, right? So again, in Ted, I don't know if you've caught that book, Who Stole My Pension by Ted Siddell and Robert Kiyosaki. He talks about Gina Raimondo, right? Who did exactly what you just described earlier in the pensions, right? So now they're forecasting, 8 to 10%, and Warren Buffett says, what makes these people think they're going to get these returns? Like they're going to be, if Warren Buffett doesn't think that he can get those returns, right? Why do these governments just say, hey, yeah, no, they get into riskier, and this is what I'm scared of, Chip. They get into riskier investments with higher fees, sometimes 800% higher, right? It's only supposed to be a couple basis points to charge to manage an index fund, and they're charging maybe 4%, right? Hundreds and hundreds of basis points higher than excessive fees. In that book, he talks about a majority of all the funds available were like the SEC did a study, and they found that they were charging excessive funds, right? So they're like, what are the odds that your state and local pensions aren't being charged excessive funds? It's almost like impossible because there's so many of them were. So and they lie about the returns, they lie about the fees baked into it. These are things that concern me. Not to mention, again, I don't want to go too much in the weeds, but just the biggest Ponzi scheme going is our money itself, right? So you'll hear guys like Jeremy calling into WSAR, few people talking about, the Federal Reserve System coming off the gold standard in '71. CJ and Chip, they don't teach this stuff in Fall River, and it's intentional, right? I've been saying that it's 100 years of ever since 1913 when they created the income tax and the Federal Reserve System. Bless you, my son's here because my son homeschools, right? He doesn't. I don't send my kids to public schools because I don't think that's a valuable education for them. And my son listening to this is probably going to learn more than he would, in school. But 1913 income tax starts off. It was unconstitutional to do what they do to everyone today. And then also the Federal Reserve, these banking cartels, which for hundreds of years have financed both sides of every war, which is why there's no money to go to pensioners, Chip, right? They're spending hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars on fake wars, fake, COVID political schemes, all these things. If you listen to the Grunts of Giants by R. Buckminster Fuller, he talks about these things are intentional to keep people poor. They could just essentially bulldoze entire cities to the ground, and that will allow the financiers to have to lend out more money, make more money. Wall Street, or the military-industrial complex. The average person in America doesn't realize how screwed they're getting because they don't teach that in schools. They don't teach that in schools. So that's one of the things that I say we need to change the curriculum. Kids who do go to that, they need to be taught vastly different. They're being taught that giving half of your life to taxes, to income taxes, is patriotic, right? Because you got to have teachers, police, and fire, all this stuff. But it's really one sick system. How is one plebe like myself from Fall River going to change the national, politics and economy? And I don't think that's going to happen. But at least if I get in that city council, and I left that with the fire union last night, I said, how much am I going to be able to change? I'll certainly push for everything that I think will help rank and file people and accountability and stop the craziness. But at least letting me go to those meetings where I don't have 3 minutes to talk, right? Like I had 2 minutes to speak to them last night. I mean, even Joe Camara gives me 3. But if I could go to those meetings and push back every time some administrator comes there and lies and makes way too much money than they shouldn't even have a job working for Fall River, and then tries to tell lies to me. And those councilors now have been accepting it for 30 years because it fits their agenda, right? The only agenda I have is to stop crushing poor people in Fall River and businesses and everybody else. Just having me there, yeah, I'm only one vote of 9 people, but I think I would have such an outsized influence on what happens in the city of Fall River. First off, I don't think a guy like Temperchico would come to the city and say, 98% of people are participating in the purple bag. I don't think he'd have the gall to say that with me standing there.
Well, Jordan, you look, listen, they know about these things, and this is what irritates CJ and I. We have sent numerous letters. I sent them a letter with all the numbers on their retirement that I just said from 02 to 12. I gave them the exact numbers. I submitted a letter with the $17 million that the city got back from the healthcare system and asked where did it go. CJ has sent numerous letters to these people. So it's an intentional thing. They're malfeasant. They are not representing the people. And the reality is we need people who are on that council. That's why we keep saying we've got to get people on it who are going to say, listen, the city's job is to provide certain things, public safety, a quality education, but not to have this giant spending spree. We're an employment agency for everybody that they know that can't get a real job. And the thing is, we're going to create 4 supervisors where there was 1 and give them a big pay raise because they can bring Paul votes. But the thing is, what irritates me as someone who's been doing this, for so many years, I want to forget, but it's like shoveling crap against the tide sometimes, and you get frustrated, is that they're totally not responsive to react. You can send them the numbers and they didn't even read them. They don't even talk about them. They refuse to read our letters. I sent them We've sent them numerous things. And this is the problem. The city of Fall River is not supposed to be an employment agency. It's supposed to be a government. And that government is to provide us with essential services. So I guess I'm a roundabout way. I shouldn't assume. So I will ask you. I, are you in favor of a lot less spending and a lot more accountability? That's a pretty easy. That's a softball. So,
Feed me up for that one. Yeah, I mean that's the cornerstone of what I believe in. A couple things on that, man. I obviously hear you with shoveling against the tide, right? Like you're like one guy. There's a handful of people. I even said in the original recall, like we had this huge movement of people. It was like a couple dozen people who were like, really driving that. It was crazy how much we got accomplished with a handful of people that then the city came around because it was so blatant about like lies even at that time. But yeah, obviously I'm against increased spending, and I'm gonna be. But it ain't. It's one thing to say that, and what you were just saying about how unresponsive the politicians are. I've gone to dozens and dozens of the meetings. I've laid out my case. I saw a woman recently go. She's like, "Hi, there's a homeless encampment right outside my house. No one's doing anything." She leaves a horrific story, right? And they're like, and then Joe's like, "Yep, 3 minutes is up." And she walks away. Not one city councilor even acknowledged she was there, right? So I want to change the citizens' input to a citizens' discussion. I've said that many times where they have knocked down, drag out arguments with Pat Casey about, you won't even respond to what I'm saying because they're so afraid they don't want to have a discussion there, right? It's like, listen, we're all human beings. They sit there, Chip. Don't refer to me by my name. I am referred to as counselor in seat 7. Bro, you need to leave, right? Like we're humans. This is nothing that irks me. This is Fall River. It's a very blue collar place, and you go there and they're talking about what was decorum. Remember, it was always decorum, dude, for the last 10 years. Decorum. It's like, dude, we need to speak as normal people, right, and hold these people accountable. I love when anyone goes out to the city council, but it's almost like, why would you, right? Why would you when you go there? Outside of the 90-day window every 2 years before an election, now they have to pretend they care. Like Linda was up in arms at the last week. Like she literally said, "How many times does this woman have to come down here and say there's a homeless encampment on that issue?" Right? I was in Providence not too long ago. I took the wrong turn. Dude's living on the street. He's got like a whole makeshift shanty thing. Another book I just finished recently was San Francisco by Michael Schellenberger, right? Running for governor of California. That's something that we tolerate, right? So, and again, one thing I'm going to push and promote, guys, is nuance. You hear these platforms and platitudes and slogans, right? Like we need to do this or we need to do that. Every issue is so more nuanced than what these people are willing to do or even capable of doing. So when I'm looking at my wife, maybe because I'm a former law enforcement. I'm like, why is this guy allowed to live on the sidewalk, like full out town, like you see Madison Cass up in Boston, right? That's something we tolerate. Even last night, this whole panhandling issue, right, quote unquote issue. I had Jeff. Yeah, citizens input shouldn't be input, Jeff. It should be a discussion. They should actually acknowledge your humanity when you go as a person who, you have of less means, and you go to those meetings and you take time away from your 4 kids and you go to a meeting. They should actually acknowledge and maybe even offer some solution to your problem. Like I said, they'll only do that around an election. Back to these guys living on the street. Last night we're seeing a guy, quote unquote, he was panhandling a couple days ago, right? So he was cognizant, walking down the street, approached the car. Hey, you have money? I'm like, no, thank you, right? I don't think that's the way to handle it. And then that was fine. He stayed on the sidewalk, no problem there. Last night I was going to Home Depot with my wife after the fire meeting, and the same dude was walking down the street, straight, eyes closed, nodded, like medical emergency, right? So at that point, I looked at my wife. I'm like, that guy should be PC'd, right? If you don't want to arrest him, put him in protective custody. Now here's where the nuance comes in. I'm not a police state person. I'm the only libertarian running, right? I'm the least. I want the least police state of any person in this race, right? But it's nuanced. When you'll see a guy at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Plymouth Ave like literally hanging down to his knees, barely awake. That guy is having a medical, like, right. It's obviously addiction, right? Let's talk about that too. I got plenty of things I want to talk about. But that needs to be addressed, right? And the encampments or whatever. But I think, I don't know if Coogan doesn't know how to. He doesn't want to offend people, or again, whether, let's say, you can't have a society, a normal society, where people do whatever they want. In San Francisco, it's super bad. People are just defecating in the street. That these are what, again, we live in Massachusetts. This is what a federal delegation, state. This is what they kind of hold up. This, like, he calls it radical caring for people, or whatever. Which really not. It's enabling, right? And again, sorry for going off on many different things, but the pension thing is super important. I could talk about that more over time. But like another thing too, one of these firefighters, right, that saying they're raising money for a guy who has cancer. So something like that, like, again, if that's job related, that's got to be, and they're probably fighting to get it job related. It should be handled by like some sort of short term disability, or even like a life insurance policy that could get converted. Like, that should be handled, right? If a guy risks his life and he's not, getting taken care of when something like that happens. But what that comes with, right, is that's really trust the experts, right? If we're putting people in equipment that's not actually protecting them, right? That's same thing with what's the opioid epidemic, right? 100,000 people dying from that. These are, when you talk about 2010 Chip, we flooded the city with opioids, right? It's not heroin. I'm sure there is heroin, but mostly people are dying from pharmaceuticals, which is being handed out by prescriptions from doctors, and then pharmacies. I think now that they're talking on the radio, they'll deliver it right to your house, right? So again, back to nuance. We've created this whole drug issue too in Fall River, right? We've enabled it. It's paid for by health insurance. It's this sub economy where people are selling their pill prescriptions. No one in Fall River is addressing this, from the mayor to the city council. There's a whole time. I said this to Mike Boudria on WSAR probably 7 years ago. I said, if everyone, there's an industry that profits from all the drug abuse and misery, right? Like I said, if everyone in Fall River put down their drugs tomorrow, it would be the worst thing economically for Fall River, since like all the mills going away, like Glow Manufacturing, Enduro, all these things. So many people would lose money. So we're incentivizing the recovery thing, and again, it goes back to nuance. There are people. There's the Portuguese model, which doesn't enable, but it's also not criminalizing people. But if people make money from the problem, homelessness, drugs, schools, ignorance, illiteracy, there's going to be more of it. That's what we're getting in the school department. But to get an extra $77 million to do better results, we're incentivizing failure in the schools. People, they make more money from failure. So again, there's so many things that need to be fixed in Fall River. It's unbelievable. I want to attack all of them and really address the heart of the issues. And I don't think anyone running, again, I don't think I'm a good candidate. I think I'm the best person running for office. And I think I'm the best person that can articulate these things as poorly as my delivery is. Firefighters, Jordan, you got to calm down and stay concise. It's the way my brain works, and I try to cover, all these sweeping. People want me to solve every problem in society as a one person running on the city council with like 2 minutes to speak. So I've been trying to work in those parameters for 10 years, and it's tough.
Well, you've given us a lot of information, Jordan, and you're taking up a lot of time here. I want to give you a minute to tell the people why, besides what you've already said, why you're running and why you want them to vote for you.
Thanks. So yeah, I'm running because I want to, you hear people say, the politicians, oh my God, I'm running because I love hand on their heart. I love Fall River so much. It hurts me when I wake up in the morning. My actions speak louder than my words. I'm not going to take any money to do the job, right? So it's only a burden for me, which I'll gladly take on because I think I can change things in the city of Fall River. Specifically, again, I'll have the most robust platform, 100 items on it. I've just been refining it. But just some of the core tenets. Again, my overall theme is we need to. I'm the only person I think can say we need to do better with what we have, right? Everyone else is just talking about dollars and cents, which throws out all empirical evidence that more money hasn't solved any of these problems, right? But more money equals more votes, so that's what they push, right? So I don't push that because I'm not trying to get votes. I'm trying to do the right thing every day, and then so I don't raise campaign funds. That's why I don't spend campaign funds. That's why I don't want money to do the job. And again, it's going to take fine nuances and fixing everything, right? Transparency and accountability. I'm going to crusade on all these things. I'll push it at every meeting, right? I want the chief of police, the superintendent at the meeting, standing in front of me, answering questions every month, right? Like that doesn't happen now. It's kind of, again, everyone puts on an act right before an election, like they care. And then for the day after, they don't care. They don't care anything about your opinion. That's for sure. I'll see you in 18 months. If I'm on the council, I'm not talking about a tourism director, right? I'm not talking about when we should put the barrels out. Is it 7 o'clock at night or is it 2 hours before sunset? I'm talking about the thorny things they never want to talk about because it's going to, it proves that the city constantly fails even after spending more money on it. It's gonna, they don't want to talk about that stuff. I'm going to talk about it at every meeting. They're going to get sick of hearing it about me. Hopefully that in itself will cause people to do things differently. Couple of things. I think we need to raise revenue, right? Some things that we do. Just so some of the things that I'm going to introduce, right, is just they stack on top of each other. We should raise revenue by selling, what the city already does, right? Just something that seems completely outside the box. We should record, right? We should record lectures by the school department and attempt to sell them, right? Or at least get views on YouTube or whatever. See if that will bring in revenue, right? That'll do many things, right? It'll bring transparency. Like I said, if people knew what was going on in the schools, I don't think they would be wanting to put more money into the school department, right? And if it doesn't generate any interest, I said this to Maria Potts, I'm like, what we do in schools, is it even valuable? Is that why kids don't go to school? Is that why when they are in school, they're like having rap battles in the back of the classroom, right? So again, something like that will prove, hey, maybe what we're doing isn't valuable in the marketplace. So why are we spending $17,000 a year per student to do this? Because we've done it for 100 years to have a society of workers, right? To try to train people up to work at Walmart. We're failing to even that standard. Or we want to send everyone to college, even though people who go to college can't even, the return on investment doesn't even make sense financially. But again, they've been trained to say everyone needs to go to college. You know why? Because all the teachers and administrators have done. That's why I say we have the wrong role models, right? Even in the schools. So again, I know it's a lot, guys. I appreciate the platform. And again, I just have so much to say. Obviously, guys, we've been doing this for a long time. I think I have a comprehensive platform. I take all the slings and arrows, dude, on social media. I love it. People want to go out there. Oh yeah, you're just this. I don't care. I don't care. I'll keep doing it. I have nothing to gain. I stand nothing to gain from it. Me and my family. Again, I've said this. It's not to brag. It's just to show what is possible with an actual education, right? I've never made a lot of money from my W-2 income jobs, right? But with the very little money that I've had, I've been able to acquire $2 million in real estate. We just bought a pizza place. Shameless plug for Fiorentina, right? And again, even this is the other thing. I don't need to win, right? So I'm still going to be teaching kids about finances at the restaurant, right? So again, I'm going to keep doing, here's the part that might really go up everybody's butt sideways, right? I'm going to continue doing what I'm going to do regardless, right? Whether I win or lose, it's fine. I live it forever. Again, I see a lot of people suffering. I'll keep advocating, and I'll keep trying to do what I think will help the city, and even in my small world, as much as I can impact people.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show, Jordan. We really appreciate it. It's a pretty long show today, and I like that. And once again, I want to thank you. Best of luck in your election, and keep up the good fight because it definitely is a good fight. And I love watching your comments on social media all the time.
One last statement.
Go ahead.
Oh, just the fact that we're doing this in our houses and stuff. Again, I saw Laura Washington last night. I didn't beat her up about, again, you criticize government and then BCC shuts you down. A house of an institution of learning with debate should be encouraged, right? In the First Amendment, where I have my degree from BCC, right? shut you guys down. They shut me down 10 years ago, right? Because they don't like people criticizing the government. Obviously, that's a problem, dude. Nationally, the censorship, the PC stuff. Again, if the guys who like us who value debate, we know how important it is in this country. It's the only thing keeping this country alive, dude, is the First Amendment. That's why it's the most privileged, position in the Bill of Rights. It's under assault every day. They don't like what I have to say. I had a group of 35,000 people in Fall River get shut down by social media. There's so many things wrong in this country, right? That again, I don't know how to live any other way than to fight for what I think is right on all of them.
And then, like I said, don't give up the good fight, because you definitely need
Wait
to
a minute.
be sure that you've got it.
You're not
Chip, you have
unmuting
anything
me.
to
I
say?
need to unmute. Hang on.
I can hear you, Chip. I can hear you, buddy.
Oh,
We could hear him.
just side, maybe you talk so fast because we're always under a time limit at citizens input. But with all joking aside, we always say on the show, you come on, we disagree, but this is what makes people think. And I think that when you went back to the recall, there was really only a few of us. There weren't a lot of people that were in the call group that started this thing and pushed this thing. But we were vocal, and we said things that people didn't like, but then other people began to listen, and we created a movement. And that's what I think we need to move our government forward. So people will make their decision on you, and I wish you the best of luck. And it was fun having you, because it's always lively when we're together. So that's it.
That's it. That's it.
We'll talk
All right,
again, guys.
I want
Appreciate
to
it, man.
thank you for watching. I want to thank Jordan for being on the show. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. We'll see you on Friday.
Take care.